In this video, you will learn how to deploy a smart contract on Quai Network blockchain. At the moment, Quai Network has finished its official dates of the testnet. However, it is still running. The whole network is still running, and the miners are still mining because they're still incentivized to mine, and therefore you can go ahead and test your application and smart contracts on there, even though the testnet is kind of finished officially. I will show you the easiest way I know how to deploy a QRC20 that is the same as a ERC20 almost. That is just a token contract, and a simple way to deploy QRC721, which is the same as ERC721, which is an NFT smart contract. And I'll just briefly talk about the multi-chain architecture. And if you probably need something more complicated or something with a bit more detail, I would assume you are not watching this video. So let's just go ahead and start. And yes, I will also show you how to deploy your NFT with a picture. So if you'd like to, play around and deploy your first image on blockchain, then keep watching. Or you can also use this, the chapters in this video to go ahead and go straight into the part that you would like to use. So right now I have like a terminal at the bottom, and then I have the tutorials from the Quai Network docs, and the docs are open source. So if you have any kind of suggestions on what to do there, you can of course suggest it there and implement the changes and do some GitHub work with them. However, in this docs page, there is like a big part of environment setup. And what you can do instead, there is like a very quick, if you're like, I, for example, am not a developer and I don't know very much what environment variables I would like to set up very precisely. So there is a default environment that I can use, and that is in the hardhat-example. So we have this GitHub page. I will leave the link to it in the description. The link to it is also in the docs themselves. And this hardhat-example, it installs you a default environment, and it also installs you sample contracts for QRC721 and QRC20. So we can just go ahead and copy that repository instead. So to do that, what we do is we open our terminal. We are nowhere. We don't go into any particular folder, and we put the git clone command and that repository. And that is quickly done. And then we go into cd hardhat-example. That's the name of the folder we just installed. And now we are in that folder, and we install all the necessary dependencies with the npm-i command. And now for kind of further actions, I prefer using VS Code. You can use any other code editor. And we open the hardhat-example we just installed. That's the repository. And as you can see here, that is our kind of repository directory. So we have contracts, node modules, scripts, test, environment dist, git ignore, hardhat config, and everything that's necessary. We open the terminal here, and what we will need to create is the environment file, touch.env. We created the environment file, and now what we do, we copy the stuff from the .env dist, so that is a kind of sample, into our environment. So that is done with the command. You copy it right from GitHub, you copy this, and you paste it in the terminal. And our environment file now contains the same things. So here, what we do to configure our environment, we need a unique private key for each deployment address. So you can deploy on single chain, so that can be any shard you pick, so from Cypress 1 to Hydra 1, Paxos 2, or whatever. And for each of those that you would like to deploy on, you put your particular private key from your own wallet address. And that wallet address needs to have some balance, because you will need some Quai to deploy it. You can either get in the Faucet, that Quai that you need to deploy stuff, or you can ask on Discord, just ask around if somebody can send you a little bit of Quai. People have a bunch, so everybody is kind of sharing it with everybody if you need some. So where do you get these private keys? To get these private keys, you go into your Pelagos wallet. And if you don't yet have Pelagos wallet installed, I will leave the link to the extension in the description under this video. And I have a bunch of wallets imported here, but it doesn't really matter. You can create your bunch of addresses, and to whichever chain you would like to deploy, you need to have an address and a balance, a little bit of Quai on that address, because the deployment process is taking some gas for deployment as well. So You see, it here says Cyprus1, and it has the wallet address for exactly Cyprus1. That means that when you copy the private key, you insert it into the Cyprus1 part. Then you will need something for Cyprus2. If you don't have a wallet for Cyprus2, you click on this, I forgot the name, how it is in English, but you click Add Address, and it is, you pick Cyprus2, confirm, and you get a Cyprus2 address. And to copy the private key, you click on the three dots right next to the address, you click Export Private Key, you copy the key, and then you paste it in to exactly the place where Cyprus2 is. Make sure you don't mix them up, because if you mix them up, it will not work and you will have to go back and check whichever one you messed up. So be slow and careful when you paste those in. And the key thing is that you don't really have to do it for every single wallet address that you have here. You only have to do it for the ones that you want to deploy on. And the thing is, you will likely either deploy on one chain or on all chains altogether, albeit you can do it any other way. You can deploy on Cyprus1, Cyprus2, Cyprus3, so on just like one region. You can deploy on all 9, you can deploy on just one zone, that is just like Cyprus1, or you can pick Cyprus1, Hydro1, and Paxos1. It's a little bit random, but you can, again, nobody stops you from doing that. And if you just want to play around with the network, really, it's do what you want to do. Chain ID is you pick where you'd like to deploy. You can test it out on local network, that is your own laptop or your own computer. Then testnet is 9,000, that is where we are going to deploy, and devnet is 12,000. And we need 9,000, that's exactly what's said already here. And the RPC endpoints is where you'd like to deploy your contract against. So kind of this, the ones that are default, you just leave them there. You don't touch and it's going to work. And of course, you can try to play around with them if you're a bit more advanced, but honestly, I would recommend you just not change them. It's still going to work. And I will now paste my private key and not show you it, because you have to keep your private key private, as the name suggests. And now we can go ahead and have a look at the contracts. I made sure to save my file by saying Command S, or you can say Control S, depending on your system that you're using. And in the contracts, we have the greeter contract. We don't really care about the greeter. You can, check it out yourself. QRC20 and QRC721. As I said, QRC20 is a token and QRC721 is an NFT, non-fungible token. Here you can, of course, change something if you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing and you just want to deploy a token, just don't touch them. And there are scripts for just deploy, that is a general. Then there is deploy QRC20 and deploy QRC721. In the deploy QRC20, that's where you define the name, the symbol, and the token supply, total supply. So the test token, let's say it is a good money token, and we say the ticker is GM, and we'll leave the total supply, whatever it says here. And we save the file by pressing Ctrl or Command S. And yeah, after this, all you will need to do is compile and run it and deploy on any of the chains that you would like to deploy it on. Then before we do that, let's have a look at the QRC721. So we compile them all together and we can deploy them one by one after that as well. So for QRC20, you have the symbol and the name as well. If you would like to actually deploy an image in your QRC721 contract, you will have to edit the QRC721 contract itself. So what do you do here? What you do here is you are going back and you search for tokenURI and base URI. And yeah, here we go. So here we have this between lines of code of 193 and 210. That's where we will have to edit some data here. That's not very difficult, but you have to follow the process step by step to make sure you don't mess things up. So you see this link. This link will have to lead us to a JSON file that contains some information about our image. And to do that, you will first need to create a JSON file, then put the information into that JSON file, then put it on IPFS and put the link to that IPFS address in here. That's not very difficult, as I said, so just bear with me. We go ahead and let's just create it in the right here. I call it 0.json. you have to start with 0, and for every NFT you say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on if you deploy more than one. But I am going to deploy just one, so I'll call it 0.json. In this JSON file, you will need to have certain things. So firstly, you need the link to your image on IPFS. So let's first do that. We upload your image to IPFS. To do that, I prefer using the third web. That is just the third web developer resource that helps you with many things. And I am using their infrastructure storage that helps me to do that. So I go into storage, I click get started. You'll have to connect your wallet, but you won't need any money for putting stuff on IPFS, at least at the very initial pages. So you need to drag and drop your file here to upload it to IPFS. I drag and drop and I have my file in on my desktop. So here is the image I would like to deploy, and I click start upload. And there you go. I already uploaded it very quickly, and I get the copy IPFS hash. That's what I will need to then deploy this exact image on the Quai Network blockchain. Then as I already said, we'll put this link in a JSON file. And I just copy the somebody's JSON file that I found, that I got help from, and this is how it could look like. Because it has traits, you can leave the traits. I don't want to include the traits, I don't really care, but I would like to have a name. And if you'd like to put your own metadata field in here, you just say here. And for example, this is what mine, it doesn't really matter. It's arbitrary what you put in the name, in the description. You don't even have to have those. What's important is you have the link to your image here. And because this is just a random link that I had, I will put the link to the image I just deployed on IPFS. So I copy IPFS hash of the image I just deployed, and I put it in this JSON file. And then what we need to do is put this JSON file on IPFS as well. We go back to storage and we drag and drop another file. And that is my 0.json file from the hardhat example. And I start upload. And yep, it's already done, and I have this link to the JSON file itself. For the image, we don't really care about the image link anymore. We need only the JSON file link, and we put it in the QRC721 contract. It is line 209 in the code, and in here we remove the Quai NFT link and we put our IPFS link. However, here what you see is that we also have the /.0.json. We need to remove the 0.json because this will be added, we need to have the slash still, because this will be added at another step. And the previous step that adds it is called the tokenURI function. So this function, as you can see on line 200, it returns base URI. That is just the base URI link we just created at line 209, the one we pasted to the JSON file. And it will also append, concatenate, that's the proper word to say it, to string token ID. Token ID is the number of your NFT that you are deploying. So this process can be used to deploy multiple NFTs one after the other. However, I will be deploying just one, and the first and the only token ID that I will be using is 0. However, it starts with 0 and then it goes ahead and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. So it will append 0 for me for the first one. And what we also need to add, as you remember, we had 0.json, and because we removed the JSON, we put the .json here as well. And that would be it. You click save, I put Command S, and we are good. Let's see if it will work. So now we need to compile all the stuff that we changed. We have the QRC20 deployment with the name and the symbol of the NFT. We have the QRC20 deployment with the name, symbol, and total supply. And for QRC20, you don't even need to change anything else. That's all good. Let's go back to the Quai docs to check if we missed anything or not, to make sure that we are all right. So we go to the deploy stage right here. If you previously deployed any contract, which I did, you will need to use the npx hardhat clean global that will make sure that you don't mess anything up, because if there has been previous compiling, there will be an error. And yep, so we cleaned our stuff and we compile our things this way. It says that the Solidity compiler is not installed, and you press Y. That means please do install it for us. And it says the pre-release compiler version, don't really care about it because it compiled 3 Solidity files successfully, so we're all good. So our files have been successfully compiled, and that means the 3 files are the Greater contract, the QRC20, and the QRC721 contract. So here it adds the deployment script. However, as we already know, we have the deployment scripts already. So we can just go ahead and deploy it. So what we do to deploy is npx hardhat run scripts deploy. I copy this and I put it for Cypress 1 actually. It says just the deploy, but because I have the deploy QRC20, I will use the deploy QRC20 on a network Cypress 1. And I will show you on Cypress 1, but if you'd like to deploy multi-chain, you do it for every chain. It took me about 1 minute and it is already deployed. We can check all the data where it has been deployed here. So it says transaction hash from contract address and block hash, transaction hash, and everything you need to check it on the Quai Network Explorer, block explorer. And let's first deploy the QRC721 as well to make sure that we have the image. Honestly, I'm more excited about images. I just like pictures. So we do QRC20 and QRC721 replace it. You leave the network the same. And also, by the way, if you don't want to repeat that, I just use the arrow up that repeats the line of code I just said previously, so I don't have to copy paste it too many times. And we'll probably again take another minute or so to deploy this. It just got deployed. So let's have a look how we deployed this. We deployed transaction hash and we check the transaction hash on the Quai Explorer. We go to Cypress 1 Explorer and we search the transaction hash. And here you go. And you click for token ID. Yep, we clicked it, and as you can see, that is our Quai Pepe. I deployed a GIF, and there is our Quai Pepe Zeus being dancing on blockchain, and we're good. It's been a few confirmations as well, and let's check our QRC20 token to make sure we are also there. For some reason it didn't work at that time, so I just deployed my QRC20 again, and there you go, it just worked. So we have the deployment from some 000 generator address to our wallet and to this. We have the token, the QRC20 token, and we see that this is just a GM. The second time worked. I don't know why the first time had some kind of issue pending, but it worked the second time, so that's good. You just might need to deploy twice. That's no big deal, to be honest. Right now it's the testnet. So, and now let's try to deploy our contract on another shard. So I just got some tokens from the Faucet. So to get the tokens from the Faucet, I go to the faucet.quai.network. I will leave the link in the description. You go to your Pelagus wallet and you copy the address by copy address, and you paste it in here and you click request Quai. I just did that, therefore it says I cannot do that because it's limited to 1 request every 2 minutes. But I just got 1 Quai from the Faucet, as you can see. I also sent some Quai from another address here, so I just copy this address, export private key, and I put it in the environment file as well. And I can now show you the multi-chain deployment contract. So we go ahead and we put the same command. That is the npx hardhat run scripts deploy QRC20, and instead of deploying just on Cypress 1, we put Cypress 2. And we just deployed it on Cypress 2. And in order to check it on Cypress 2, you will need to take the transaction hash and to make sure that you go to the Cypress 2 block explorer. So right now we're in Cypress 1, we just click on Cypress 2 right here and we check it like this. As you can see, all confirmed, we're all good. So now what we need to do, once we have the contracts on every chain that we would like to deploy it on, let's assume I would like to deploy it just on Cypress 1 and Cypress 2, I will go back into the docs and use the script to link the sister contracts. These contracts that are the same but are deployed on different chains are called sister contracts. So to link them with an easy way, you create an addApprovedAddress file in here. So we open our terminal again and we touch scripts, addApprovedAddresses. We copy the addApprovedAddress script from the docs, paste it in here, and we save it as well. Once you have the script, you need to grab your contract addresses. Those were displayed in the logs once you deployed them. So now I remind you, we are only deploying and linking Cypress 1 and Cypress 2 smart contracts, so those are the addresses that we need. The chain ID for Cypress 1 is 0, and for Cypress 2 it is 1. And then the contract addresses for the respective chains are listed in the same order, so first for Cypress 1, then for Cypress 2 in line 15. Make sure you put them in this correct order. Then last thing you need to add is in line 9, you need to put the contract address on the chain that you are linking it on. So I will be executing the linking script firstly on Cypress 1. So first I put the contract address of Cypress 1 in line 9 and I do the run the script on Cypress 1. Then once I'm done with it, I'll do the same thing, but I put the Cypress 2 smart contract address in line 9, and then I execute this script on Cypress 2 as well. And this will finish the linking process. This is fine to do for like 2 chains, but if you add more, it's going to get too complex. So to help you with that, there is a very easy deploy script and actually deploy and link script that is available on GitHub that I'm going to show you. So this script allows you to take the token, define all the ticker, the total supply and the name, just like we did before, and then deploy and link it with just one command on all 9 chains. As you can see, I already cloned this GitHub repository with git clone command, and the script I'm talking about is in folder contract QRC20, and it is called deploy and link QRC20. You define chain indexes that you would like to deploy on in line 16. I'm just going to leave all 9 chains. And then in the deploy config that starts in line 27, you define the chains themselves. So make sure that the order matches as well. So if we started like 0, 1, 2, 3, that means we will go so on, like 0 to 8. We'll go from Cypress 1, 2, 3, then Paxos 1, 2, 3, then Hydra 1, 2, 3. Another thing I did was change the gas limit. I put 7 instead of 5 here. And if you can use the gas estimator thing, you are very welcome to use it. It will be very helpful. However, in this video, I'm not going to do that. I'm just putting a random number that I think would be suitable, and that would make sure that I can deploy the contract safely. And again, this is just testnet Quai, so I'm not very careful with how I spend it. So I just defined my ticker name and the total supply that you can do in the same deploy script. And after this, we are ready to run it. We use the node command, and right after it, we put the name of the script. So I say node, and I maybe not in the most efficient way, copy the name of the contract, the script, and then put .js, and we execute it. Once you run it, it does the deployment and the linking for you for every chain that you specified. I am showing you just how it goes for several of them, but as long as you have the correct private keys and you have enough balance, this is going to work. That's it. We just deployed our token and our NFT on the Quai Network blockchain. Go ahead and play around, put your profile picture onto blockchain. And if you have any questions, of course, go join our Discord. We'll be very happy to answer your questions there. You can also type it in the comments, on Discord tickets, on Twitter, anywhere, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you very much for watching. Happy coding, and hopefully see you in the next one. And leave a like if you found this video useful. It really helps the channel to grow.